So you want to learn how to draw? Well, you've come to the right place. I'm Robbie Greer from Rusticated Art, and this is my Fun Times Family Art playlist where you get to draw along with me from the comfort of your own home. Now this week's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to ink a drawing. Now this is a drawing that I'd already done in one of my first, actually it is the first video in my Fun Times Art Family playlist. So if you've been drawing along with me, you'll already have it. But if you haven't, it doesn't matter. It's an exercise in just how to use fine line pens. Now be sure to stay through to the end, because not only will I be showing you all the tips and techniques that I've learned along the way, but I'm also going to be giving a shout out to another very special channel. So what do you reckon? You ready to get started? Well, come on then. So just like when we're drawing a graphite drawing, I start with the outside. We just go around. Now with these fine line pens, I haven't used them for quite a while, and they now come out in different shades. We've got a light grey, we've got a dark grey, and we've got black. At the moment I'm using the light grey, and it's very similar to the graphite, to be honest, you know, as far as the tone goes. Now one of the things that I find, I'm using the Unipin fine line pens, and they're actually probably at the cheaper end of the scale, but I've been using them for a long time now, and I've never found any issues with them. In fact, I find them better. I mean, I've got the Faber-Castell and Staedtler, wherever you pronounce it, but these just do the job fine for me, and some of them are actually sort of like half the price. So personally, I'd recommend them to anyone that wants to use fine line pens. Now, like I said, we're just going around doing the outside of everything, putting the hinges in there and the gudgeons. The gudgeons are what connected to the post, and the hinges are connected or sit on top of them, the gudgeon. Putting in the bolts, they're what hold it all together. Now I've had to go into time lapse because it's the only way to get enough information that I want to get in a short time. I don't want to make them too long. Well, that there could either be a bit of wire or a bit of rope. That's what's used to connect the gate so that it stops it from coming open. It's just, well, you know, it's back in the old days. I didn't have a lot of resources. And you'll notice when I'm doing the shading here, I'm using the grey, but I'm doing it very, very lightly. That's a 0.1 nib on that. And also, if you look at the sides, I'm making the sides just a little wee bit darker. And that's just to give the impression of depth, to make the post look like it's round. And now I'm putting a little bit of detail. You know, it's old posts, so they've got splits in them and little bits and pieces here where there's obviously no bark on it, but just doing sort of the grain of the timber. I do it very similar to when I'm using graphite, and that I look for little imperfections and I use them to put the texture into the wood. Now a lot of artists will remove all the graphite once they've inked it all in, but I actually like to leave the graphite there, and I call it a platinum finish. It's just a little bit different to me, just looks a little bit realistic, and I'll show you at the end another little trick to make it even a bit more realistic. As always, I like to turn the page around. I like to go with the flow. I find it easier to draw up and down than to try and draw sideways. Now if you notice, when I'm drawing across like that, I go from the edge to the edge. I don't go across. You know, I start from the edge and work my way in towards the drawing, so I don't go over the line. Does that make sense? So like with a graphite drawing, we start off with the outline, then we do the under drawing. Now here we're just doing on the rail. It's always darker on the bottom because the sun or the light source never comes from the ground. It's always coming from either the top or the sides. So generally the bottom of the post or the rails will be a little bit darker. Okay, so now when I talk about doing the outline, the under drawing, when we get all that in, and then we'll come back and start putting in a bit of detail, a little bit like the different grains, the different things that you see on timber. little imperfections that are in the paper that we've created that ourselves just by using the paper and a pencil or in this case a fine line pen, and you'll see it. You just got to look closer. And I love the texture that's coming up on this. That's beautiful. And all I'm doing is just finding it in the paper itself. It's like I always say, we're just putting marks on paper. And usually it's a little bit darker in there because the light source is not able to get in there like it can the rest of the post, so we make that a little bit darker in there, a little bit darker on the edge. Yeah, and it's just a matter of just taking your time, as I always say, and don't go too hard, because you'll find when you're using ink, you've got to be bold, but at the same time, by bold I mean you've got to be confident, but at the same time you've got to be aware that once you put that mark on the paper, you're not going to get it off. Well, you're not going to get it off easily. Not without damaging the paper anyway. Just put a bit more dark on the bottom there and a bit more detail. Just little marks and that that's what you see when you're looking at an old wooden fence. And this is just in my head. I mean, if you really want to do something, you might have a fence on your own property or down the street or somewhere. Take a photo of it. Use it as a reference, because it's a lot easier to use a reference photo than it is to just try and make it up. And you don't have to use the reference as a strict, you've got to do it like that. It's just to be used as a guideline. That's all I do. And you'll see here where I'm doing the detail down the bottom there. Because trees grow, as we know, outwards, so they have what they call rings. And as they get older, in the ground and that, those rings will start to split sometimes and bits will break away. I'm just going over the hinge, making it look a bit rusty, just lightly. Slowly building layers. That's how we do our drawings. We put down the graphite, in this case we put down the ink, but we just do little bits and then we come back and put a bit more. And quite often you'll find where there's bolts and that in timber, especially old hardwood timber, it'll split a bit. So you'll see splits around there, around the bolts. Just darkening it up where there'll be a little bit of shadow there and under there. You can slow this down. If you want to slow it down, you'll see, obviously it's going to be slower, but pause as often as you need to. I'm putting in the grass or the posts are in the soil, I guess. I'm just using strokes. I've got my hand and my fingers locked, so I'm just sliding my arm across. Oh yeah, a little bit of a detail there, a bit of grass over there, and put a few little dots on the grass to make it look like flowers or something. And that's about it. Now, I'm going to use my little Tombow here, and I'm going to use it to take out some of the graphite, because the graphite is still on there, remember? I haven't coloured it all in with ink. And see, look at that, that just gives it a bit more of a highlight, a bit more definition, a bit more of a realistic look. Oh yeah, put a little bit of grass in there, just, could be weeds. Well, I think that'll just about do us for today. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below if you drew along with me. I'd love to hear, and I'd love to see your drawings as well. And you can send them to me through Messenger on my Facebook page, like some of you already do. And I really do love seeing them. Let's go and have a look at this week's shout out. Now let me introduce you to Uncle Heavy. He's an adventurer and a vlogger. Now I've been visiting Uncle Heavy's channel probably the last 4 or 5 months now, and I find it fascinating because what he does, he just goes about his normal business, but while he's doing all that, he's filming it. He took us to the New Jersey Devils hockey game the other night. That was pretty cool. He takes us to the Niagara Falls, and I did not realise that showing my ignorance here, that it was on the Canadian-American border. I didn't know that. Yeah, he takes us all over the place. He even showed us a place where this guy had turned a Boeing 747, I think it was, into a house. You'll really enjoy his channel. He's got a little bit of everything. And the other thing too is that he's got a really great sense of humour. I seriously do enjoy it, because He takes you everywhere. He hasn't done one particular genre. He does everything. He just films as he goes. So when you get the chance, jump on over. Tell him Robbie sent you from Rusticated Art. I know I'll love to see you, and I'm pretty sure you enjoy it as well. And as usual, I'll leave a link in the description below. Now, if you like what you're seeing and feel you're getting some value, give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment and share it with your friends, because if you're enjoying it, chances are they're going to enjoy it just as much. And if you haven't yet subscribed but would like to, hit that red button, ring the bell, that way you won't miss out on any of my future videos. Now, if this is your first time here, I'll leave a video link over here to the video I think you will enjoy watching next. Well, that's about it for this week, my friends. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one. Same time, same place.